Hello and welcome to Spotlight. I am Comfort Musa, your host on the program. Spotlight is a co-production of NajaTv and Sisterspeak237, and as is tradition on Spotlight, we zoom in on topics that are missing or ignored from mainstream media narratives. Today on Spotlight, we will be talking about intimate partner violence. I know you've heard a lot about gender-based violence in Cameroon. Every week there is a seminar, there is a program on a radio station about gender-based violence. But sometimes what we miss out on is intimate partner violence. The violence taking place within the confines of our homes. Actually, in Cameroon, intimate partner violence prevails as one of the most widespread forms of violence against women and girls. And just to quote some statistics for you, 56.4% of women and girls in Cameroon have experienced either emotional or sexual violence. To talk about this today, we have Promise Akante. She's a renowned journalist and she has reported on a lot around gender-based violence, and she's carved a niche for herself in health reporting. Promise, we're happy to have you here today.
Glad to having me, and thanks for having me though. And we are very happy. This particular topic seems like you searched my soul and saw that I have something to say about it. And so I was extremely happy when you said we should talk about this. I can't wait to share all the experiences.
Great. And we have a gentleman on the platform, a great civil society activist, and he's called Jim Chik Fomunjong from the West African Civil Society Institute. Jim, you're welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you very much, and also thank you for having me on the program. And I'm really excited to share my perspectives on this very interesting topic.
And WACC, that's West African Civil Society Initiative. This is based in Accra, Ghana.
That's right.
And so what brings you to Cameroon at this point in time?
Well, very interesting. Yes, the West Africa Civil Society Institute is based in Accra, Ghana. We work in 18 countries. Interestingly, Cameroon is one of them. So for us, Cameroon is in West Africa. And we support civil society organizations across the region. And thanks to COVID, I would say, people are saying COVID has nothing good. But to me, my family is based here in Cameroon. And so because we had the COVID situation in Ghana, where we worked indoors for close to 3 months, due to the protocols that we put in place. When those protocols were released, that we could start gathering and working from office, my office gave me the permission to come and stay with family and work from Cameroon. So I'm currently working remotely and enjoying time with family and having a balanced life as a professional and as a family man. Thank you.
I imagine having 3 months at home, without the interaction of staff in office spaces and with your family being here, it should be quite a relief.
It's a relief being here, and I must say the period I spent alone in my apartment in Ghana was the most depressing period for me. There were moments I would practically be speaking to the walls.
Because you're alone,
Because I was alone in a very big house. So I moved to the kitchen, I talked to my pots, I moved to my bedroom, talked to my wardrobe.
You're losing it.
Yeah, I was really losing it. And it wasn't really easy. Although I enjoyed my job, that human and humane connection was really missing, and it was really taking a toll on me. And thankfully, my office has a very humane policy, and they thought it wise to give us that latitude to be in an enabling environment that will make us to be most productive.
One thing about COVID and the confinements that came with it is around the world, we notice an increase in the rates of the prevalence of GBV, gender-based violence. So many women were saying, now that we are confined, we are at home, you have an increase in intimate partner violence. The home is supposed to be the safest place, I would assume. But Promise, even in Cameroon, we didn't have a complete lockdown, but there were restrictions, limitations on gatherings and all of that. And we also witnessed it in Cameroon, an increase in the cases of intimate partner violence.
That's right. And in most neighborhoods in Yaoundé, because as journalists, we have to crisscross the town to have some quarter news as a private radio station. So there were times that you will get a lot of violence and you ask like, why? And then you get an excuse, because they use that as an excuse, like, oh, because the man can no longer go out to the bars to drink, he can only pour out his anger by beating the wife or beating the children. I'm like, so is there no other thing you can do as a family apart from beating and scolding the children?
So you reported a lot of cases?
Yes, we had a lot of, like, that moment, you know, that short time when the lockdown just came in, the bars were supposed to be closed,
right?
No social gatherings, meetings were also forbidden. And then it's true that as our normal Cameroonians, that people had a way of hiding in the bars and drinking, but it was really reduced. So gatherings were reduced, and there was more violence. You have my region, for example, we have a line that listeners can call. We call it breaking news. So people will call and say there is this battery in the house where the door is even locked, that neighbors cannot get into the house. And so you get the woman screaming, the children screaming. At times they will call you and you hear the shouts in the background. You're like, what's happening? That's a man beating the wife, and the children are caught in the middle, either to separate and get beaten by their father as well, or just sit there and cry and watch their mom being battered. And probably that's it could be one of the reasons why the lockdown could not be fully implemented, because when maybe it got to those concerned that the fact that people no longer go to bars
is increasing
violence, and the women are there, they are staying there for their children.
So Promise, I hear you clearly when you talk about having to report more stories about gender-based violence during COVID. And in Cameroon, we have a peculiar context because COVID confined people to homes, and we have different crises in the country, Northwest and Southwest region. The crisis has confined people to their homes more because you have days when there's total lockdown. And as people spend more time in their homes in this confinement, we're getting more stories of intimate partner violence happening within homes. And to me, like I said before, I would imagine that the homes are the safest places. But now we're seeing it's not.
Logically speaking, like we say, your home is your safest abode. Is your safe haven. Like no matter what happens out there, you go out to the office or to the market, to any other stress place. Once you are back home, you're like, oh, at last.
Like you're with your brothers, your sisters, your parents,
whoever you are.
And these are the people that
I think that a home
perpetrating violence.
Yes, a home is where you feel safe and comfortable. And if you cannot feel comfortable and safe and happy and complete where it's supposed to be home, and then it's not home at all. But unfortunately, the COVID era showed us that there are lots of other things added to home that we didn't understand that existed before.
We need to look at critically.
Yes.
And last year, we had many stories in Cameroon, trending stories of especially women who had been killed by their boyfriends and husbands. We had these stories, and one peculiarity is each time we heard about the death, the death of a woman who has been stabbed or beaten to death by the boyfriend or husband, you would get stories of this was not the first time. This man had always been beating her. And the question I ask, and the question that we are asking ourselves is, why do you stay until, you get into the grave? Why do the victims of intimate partner violence not seek help when they still have time? And that's why we're looking at Jim. I see you nodding, but have you had to ask yourself this question as well?
Yes, I have, and it is really worrying to see that victims are staying under such horrendous conditions, and sometimes it marvels me what some of the reasons are for this. But it's unfortunate that this is happening, and it looks like we'll continue to see this for a long time. But people give reasons. Sometimes it's peer pressure. You are in a Njangi group, where all your sisters in the Njangi are married. They are talking about their husbands, flamboyant husbands, and you too want to be identified as one of those ladies of the time who is in another flamboyant or seemingly flamboyant union, whereas realistically, it is hell. And those are some of those cosmetic, reasons that some of these victims put forward as a rationale, to stay, in quotes, comfortable in these unfortunate unions.
Let me answer before you ask the question. So I was going to say that, well, these things are from like 3 sides. There's the first side of the victim herself, like I have probably for my children, or I've already spent a lot of time with this person, where am I going to go to next? Or part of my life already belongs here. I've already invested in this relationship, probably a business together or something, or we bought the land or the house together. I have to stay on for that. We also have the families. Some families who like, hey, you are not the first woman to be beaten in a marriage. Just stay there and stop complaining. Down on a white mountain in the water place. They'll give you 1,000,001 reasons to remain,
so
and
it's the family
endure.
convincing their daughter and their sister to
is
stay in an abusive relationship because talking about intimate partner violence is
white
man thing.
In quotes. That is it. And like, you people are watching too many series, all those your romantic series you watch, is really brainwashing you, and you are derailing from the African, this way,
like violence is
African reality. A man has to beat. I'm like, I don't know in which of the African constitutions people are reading this from.
There's a lot you have said, and we need to unpack it one after the other. Jim said something about women staying on because they want to be seen. They want to the peer pressure of being married.
I was coming to
there are many women who I've talked with women. I've worked with victims, and what I notice is that sometimes the fear of being single is stronger than the fear of death.
Yes.
So a man is beating you, and you may die one day, but he can kill you one day. And sometimes they say it. Some people will call and say, "The way the man did do, if he kill you, you've had those calls.
You don't want to be single, exactly.
But you don't want to get out, because if you get out, you may lose your marriage, and you would rather stay and be killed than be single. Promise? Are you single? Are you single or married?
I'm very, very single. And now the issue is,
do you think that there are Cameroonian women who would prefer to stay in an abusive relationship, even if it leads to death, than be single?
Almost all around me, and that's why they keep telling me, like, there are many women around me. I'm sorry if they're going to watch this program, they'll start blaming me tomorrow, but I'm not calling anybody's name, so I'll not call any name. But I have a lot of women around me who are in abusive relationships, really battered, with their faces wounded, and a lot of physical damage. They talk about the psychological that is involved, because of course when somebody, I'll come to the one after. But now the issue is, when you have to stay because you don't want to be single. No, most people always ask me, like, are you sure you grew up only in this Cameroon, because your mentality is too foreign, in quotes. I ask them, what is foreign about me wanting to be happy? Because I don't see why I want to be with a man who will be battering me, or will be throwing terrible words, because there are some people who are even terrible with the verbal abuse. Is even worse than the physical abuse. Why would you want to stay like that? And I have a daughter who has a way of always making my brain work. She has a way of always asking me some of these questions that will make me like, wow, she observed that. I'm going to give you a small, very short story. Like one of our neighbors, she answered a phone call the other day, I think that was last week. She answered a phone call and said, well, from the phone call, my daughter and I were having supper in the evening. So the woman answered the phone call and said, from what, French to English, no, this is not this person, it is his wife. Why are you calling my husband? Stop calling him. Go and look for your own husband. So she was looking at me when the woman was talking outside. My daughter was looking at me. So when she finished the call, my daughter said, Mommy, do you know that this man always beats the wife when you are not there? I'm like, what?
And these are the things the kids are watching and picking up.
And she asked me, why is she staying there that the husband is beating her? My daughter just turned 11.
What did you tell your daughter?
Well, I chose to answer one of the 2 questions, because she asked me 2 questions. Why am I not telling the woman to leave her husband because the man is beating her all the time? I said, well, you see, they are a couple, they are in their house, and you don't go and start talking in people's team when they have not called you. If she comes to me, I'll know what to tell her. But she has not come to me yet. Now, my daughter said that she came from school and the man had locked the wife inside the house. And the woman had to beg her through the window to help her open the door so that she can come
And how
back.
old is your daughter?
My daughter just turned 11.
And she has already been exposed to this, and it seems normal. It's been so normalized that kids growing up with the expectation that it's okay for a man to beat a woman. But Jim, this fear of, if I talk about it, then the man may send me away and I'll be single, and I would rather die in this relationship than be single. What do you have to what's your take on this?
I think one of the things that, like the backgrounds we come from, and I would like to take it from that. You know, your daughter observing that, and let me even keep your daughter out because she's safer. The children, if that couple, they have
a
kids.
small baby girl, 2 years
Good.
old.
Now, they have a baby girl.
2 years
What that
old, yeah.
girl will grow up observing will model her. And her seeing her mom enduring, she is very likely going to see her mom as a role model. And if she grows up and gets into such a relationship, she will model her mom's characteristics in her home. And so let's not be surprised to see that some of these ladies who are victims today and staying quiet, it is a generation of good. They learned it from their parents or their uncles or their neighbors, and they are enduring. And sometimes you initially made mention of the fact that, you know, sometimes the parents of the victim could be complicit. Sometimes as well, it's the parents of the perpetrator. You know, where they look at you and they turn and ask you, so where do you think you can go to? This is the best family from our village, you know. So it's a privilege for you to be married into a family. If you leave, you will be like an outcast or an unsuccessful
And this is what
person.
women fear a lot. Should women be afraid of the stigma?
Okay,
that
so
is
I'm going
because
to
society actually stigmatizes women that are not
Single.
in marriages, either single or divorced or widows. Can we deconstruct this, because this is what puts pressure on many women, and I'm getting this from both
I
of
wish
you.
to answer the question you asked me earlier on, like what did I tell my daughter? So I told her that, you see that this woman is not working right. She spends the whole day in the house. She waits for her husband for practically everything. If she has to cook and there's no tomato in the house, she has to wait for her husband to come back and give her money to buy tomatoes to cook. So I told her that what you should do is to learn, study hard, have a good job, because no man will beat an educated woman. No man will beat a hardworking woman.
Some educated women get battered.
They have technical, they are from the other side, where their other backgrounds made them think that it's okay to be beaten.
You know,
there are educated women, there are lawyers, there are journalists, there are doctors who are
battered.
victims of intimate partner violence. So it's not an intellectual thing.
It's a mentality problem, but that's why
there are lawyers who've been battered for years and they can't speak up because
they are afraid of being single, of being termed failures in life, because that's what society, in quotes, I just don't know who is called society, because I am society, you are society, all of us are society. Yeah. Now there's some other virtual being called society that has tagged women who are not in marriages unsuccessful. So when a marriage fails, they blame the woman for not being woman enough to keep her husband. And that's why a lawyer, a barrister, a doctor will not want to be tagged with
so
a failure. She would rather endure, because she doesn't want people to say, oh, so all they are book willing and so you know if you keep massa. You know how society talks. They will tell you such terrible words without even considering how it affects your mental health. Now they will tell you that, oh, small girl, when you have to go school, they pass you. Like younger girls who are less educated than you can keep a husband, and you with all of your book, because you are going to taking that white man's thing, oh, your issue of my emancipation. They will start brainwashing you and making you think that you are on the wrong.
What is the measure? What is a measure, Jim? What is a measure of a woman's success? Is it your ability to stay in a marriage? Is it your ability to sit quiet when you're being beaten? I
would say a woman's measure of success is your ability to add value to society. And it's very broad, it's very vague, but I think, and if we go by the gender-based violence measure, we shouldn't, our women, our wonderful women, shouldn't leave themselves to be under these clauses,
to be defined by society.
Because he's married.
That is, sorry.
And he's a father.
Because you are married.
Oh yeah, I
You're
am
married
and
you are a father.
And interestingly, I am a product of a single mom.
Okay.
So, and you are having a successful marriage. Meaning that...
Tell me about being a product of a single mom.
Very good. You know, growing up, my mom was there for me from primary school.
Right.
You know, and interestingly, there were moments, you know, that men would approach her and she would come and tell me, Jim, I was as young as 15. This man wants to get married to me. What do you think? And it was really, really interesting. And I told her, frankly, Mom, I love you as you are. I wouldn't love you to get married. I told her that.
Wow. However, you're standing in the way.
No, I told told her that. But I told her, if marriage will make you happier, go for
Good.
it. But
Not
as a
because of the
son,
pressure.
I love you the way you
didn't
are.
respect her less because she was
No.
Yeah.
I respected her, and she gave me the best training in the world. And interestingly, I think her choices ended up not leading to marriage. And I think she's very happy now. You know, she's proud of me. She's proud of herself. She's made it through as a single woman. And that is why I think, you know, not being married is not a tag for failure. It's not a criteria for failure.
Right.
It is how you define yourself.
Yourself.
I often ask single ladies, or even single men,
or even divorced women or widows.
exactly, what do you want? If you want a spouse, a partner, then go for it. If you want a partner and you're not getting it, then that's when you need to work hard, change your strategies and tactics to make sure that you get that goal. Because if you are not able to be fully satisfied psychologically, you will not be able to significantly add value to society in a way that society will appreciate you more despite the perceived lack that some may think you have.
Yeah, and we're talking about intimate partner violence in Cameroon. Statistics say 56.4 women in Cameroon have experienced intimate partner violence in the form of emotional and or sexual abuse. And we're asking ourselves, why do the women who have been abused not speak up? Why do they not seek help? Why do they not get out? And we're hearing there's this fear of being tagged a failure because if you become divorced or you break out of a relationship, people think you're unsuccessful. And I'm hearing Jim loud and clear that a relationship doesn't define you, and we should define ourselves. Your daughter saw a woman that's been beaten and she asked you questions. Jim also talked about kids looking and modeling what they see. But many women who do not leave these relationships are in it for their children.
True.
I don't want to leave because my children.
Almost 100% are like, I have to stay for my children. If I go now, what happens to them? Okay, what happens to you if you die? What happens to the children?
And so women
That's the
have
question
died.
I always ask.
Many.
Like anyone around me, like, no, you are saying that because you're not married. If you were married and had children you want to stay with, I say, what if you died? There are women who die while giving birth. We don't pray for that for anyone, but we have women who have died in the labor room. Did their children not grow up? They did. And I have some few single men around who have raised their children alone. Once their wives died when giving birth, they refused to get married again.
So you're saying
and raise those children alone.
You're saying it's not reason enough to stay because
of your kids. Yeah, to me I think it's not, because there it's the fear of the unknown. And sometimes one of the factors that could be contributing to that is because your spouse is the breadwinner. And so you're looking at, maybe you already have 4 children, 3 children, they are going to schools like Sacred Heart Mancon, and you have that pride of place in society, and you're asking yourself, school fees 400,000, school fees and other school needs per year 800,000, you're not making any income. So I wouldn't want my child to leave from this boarding school to this public day school, because there is the perception that these public day schools are mean schools. And so all those things, you want to live a kind of quality of life that is being provided for you by the man, and you are afraid to take that challenge on your shoulders, even cut your coat according to your cloth, and that is why I think that fear of the unknown should be broken. Maybe your destiny and the greater part of your success is when you break that barrier. And not necessarily that the marriage will get broken, but sometimes taking that bold step will make some of these perpetrators of intimate violence to realize, their eye will clear, the scales will come out of their eyes, and they will come to terms to the fact that you were a source of happiness, a source of joy, a source of added value to his life, to his family's life, to the glory that he's enjoying in society. So it's really important that, these victims should be wise in making decisions and not victimize themselves more by staying under these conditions.
Thank you, Jim, and promise we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue looking at what help is available for victims of intimate partner violence in Cameroon and what they must do to free themselves from these cycles of abuse.
nous avons pensé. Pour mieux répondre à vos attentes, nous avons rehaussé le standing.
Hotel Le Quai d'Orsay, better than what you imagine.
Welcome back on Spotlight. Today we are still looking at intimate partner violence in Cameroon. The stories are too many. The questions many people are asking is, why do the victims stay in these relationships where their lives have been threatened? Many women have died from this. Why do they stay? Why do they not seek help? Promise Akante, Jim Chick have been talking about some of the reasons and excuses that the women give, and we will be looking at some solutions, because it is our earnest desire that the rates of intimate partner violence drop, and those who really need help get the help that they need. Before the break, Jim, you were saying that women need to speak up. They need to define themselves. They don't need to stay in relationships just because of what society will say if they speak up. And you were saying speaking up doesn't necessarily mean that there'll be a divorce, because that's a fear. People are afraid that if I speak up, I may lose this man that I love. But who do they speak up to?
Well, in our society, there are different platforms. You know, the legal department, so state councils are there. I know in Bamenda there is a particular magistrate who is very keen on listening to
that should be Magistrate Ngu Belinda, I think.
Yes,
she's solid.
Yes, she is, and she's really keen on listening to these cases and willing to embrace these cases and help the victims out of these situations. And I am very sure she uses legal protocols, which of course gives them room for a discussion and an opportunity for the parties to remedy the situation. But of course, I believe that if they can't, come to a compromise, then legal protocols will be followed to ensure that the victim is safeguarded. There are also, like the Department of Social Welfare, also has a platform that listens. Of course, we may be worried about the speed or the responsiveness of these institutions, but again, it is good to speak up, because at least that listening ear is very, very helpful in giving these victims an opportunity to air their mind. I think we often say a problem shared is half solved. So it gives them that opportunity to share their worries, and they can be counseled on how to handle the situation to ensure that there is a remedy in the short course. And I really don't believe that speaking up is necessarily a route to tearing your marriage or your union apart. Rather, it is a route to ensuring that you could likely have a better marriage life, or why not have a better life, depending on the outcome of the situation. Also, some church institutions or some institutions within churches, I know churches have the counseling units or marriage counseling units that we could, take some of these complaints too. But it's very important that these victims should speak up, speak out.
When they speak up and speak out, do people believe them? Because you have quoted one example that I know, and I know she's been helpful to many women, but how many of such magistrates do we have? I know people who have gone to police stations to report rape by their uncles, and the people ask them, are you not sure you wore your skirt too short? There are people who have been battered. I mean, they have wounds, and they go to some of the ministries that have family support services, and they were told to go back home and make sure that the marriage works. And they were asked questions, are you not sure that you're too mouthy? And this, we need more friendly spaces even in some of these offices. Promise, I mean, we've had this conversation many times. Do you think that these units, the public services that are available are friendly and accommodating enough, at least for the women that you have worked with and the ones that you know?
Well, if I'm talking from personal experience, probably it's a two-way thing, because you won't just coin it that all the public offices are nonchalant towards serving complaints, because some are really exceptional, and
like the case he quoted,
yes,
and many
even
others.
There are other cases, like, this violence is not only about the physical, it's also about the emotional, financial, and a lot of other styles. So we have like the police service, for example. When a police officer is rough towards a partner, be you a legal wife or a baby mama, you have a right to go report. There's a service there, and the way it is treated, I was like, wow.
At the police station?
Yes. You go to the General Directorate of National Security there at Province, or if you're at the regions, you can go to the different police stations. And since they are trying to clean, in quotes, the face of the police, they actually handle these cases really very fast.
So if you report,
once you report and the police officer is caught up, and that is one service in the police department that no policeman wants his name to pass there, because they actually strike you seriously. If you are not giving money for the child's upkeep, they are slashing from your salary and giving to the baby mama.
It's good to know.
Once there is proof that you are a nonchalant father, and if you have been beating your partner in the house, mind you, you'll be sanctioned seriously, and it does not take time. Once you come and complain and the complaint goes through, in the next few days or weeks maximum, there's a reaction. I've seen many women who have taken their they were satisfied, like, does this happen in Cameroon for real?
This is a good example. It's good to know that there is there's justice in that sense, and women should speak up first. The
important thing is that you should speak up first. You write a complaint, you go and lay it there, and once you get to the service, they ask you, who is this person, his name, maybe where he works at the time. You just give that information. He is caught up, and every police officer knows that once you are caught up there, you must have some sanctions.
I wish this spreads to other corps, but it's a good example to know that this happens with the police.
Right. Yes, so I'm sure that other uniform officers and other corps also have these services. Now it just needs that we know and then use it appropriately. And these women should also ask themselves, like, what am I showing my children? What am I making them go through if I keeping silent? Because a child is like a sponge. The child will keep absorbing everything you put the child inside. If you put a child in a healthy and sane environment, that child grows healthy and sane and happy. Now put a child in an environment where there's always this beating and shouting, and the child might probably think that that's how life is supposed to be, and might be surprised someday when someone is showing him or her some true love, and like, this is not true, this is only in the movies. In reality, it's supposed to be beating. So I think that parents, like mothers, like fathers, because we know that there are also some women who can violate their husbands with their words, like, seriously.
And even physically.
And even physically, for those women who are stronger. Now, so it's a call to both parents. You are supposed to consider the mental well-being of your children. I know that is one aspect for me that most of us, even, I know most of us reporters and even some health specialists tend to neglect, is mental health. Now, wellness, like I was watching Kamala Harris the other day, she was saying that your health, a human being does not begin from the neck down, you begin from your head and go down. So there can be no health without mental health. Right. And you can't think about well-being without thinking of your mental well-being. All of these things this child is going through, is it not going to traumatize the children? What if these children grow and say they don't want to get married because marriage is transforming into a punching bag?
What we tolerate is a lesson to the kids. Yes. I just want to find out from both of you, what is a correlation between poverty and enduring abusive relationships?
I think there is a very high correlation, and maybe, well, poverty, economic well-being, I'll put it that way, because, and again, I think I had alluded to that, because there are some women who are being, in quotes, well sheltered or well provided for.
But they're in a golden prison, right?
You're a golden prison. You can describe
A golden
it as such.
prison,
Yeah.
it's a
You know,
prison
so
regardless.
they have everything. Their kids have everything they want. They look flamboyant and they look like they're
Out there,
flourishing
they're all smart.
out there on Facebook, on Instagram. But in reality, that is the
Direct
excuse or the excuse that the perpetrator of violence is using, that because I can give you this, I can give you a car, I can give you a house, I can send you for holidays, then you should endure this. So there is a correlation. And because some of these ladies, they stay in those homes, they are not really working or earning something substantive to give them the taste of life that they want, they now cushion their minds and endure. And so I think there is a high correlation between economic well-being and violence at home, because it encourages the perpetrators, and again encourages the victims to stay intimidated or hypnotized, if I can put it that way, under that cloud of
what Promise calls a golden prison.
Yeah, in a golden prison.
When we talk with our mothers, now I'm talking about older women, when we talk about gender-based violence with them, the narrative I often hear is that you girls nowadays need to be more patient. And I've heard from many older women who narrate stories of, you see me today, 30 years ago, this man used to do this and do this. And they narrate stories
with so
of
much love and happiness.
Worst traumas you can think
And
of.
convincing you to
there's one who
accept
would
it.
show you, like, one day my husband even poured hot water on me. This is the scar. We have old women with scars, with stories of traumas, but they're telling us, the younger women, that you need to be more patient because we endured this, and today, look at me and Nee now. Look at me and Pa now, we're fine. What do you have to say about this narrative?
I think I'll call that, the cultural myths, those beliefs or the belief systems that, make up our society, and that older generations try to pass it on to us, the younger ones. And you were saying people are describing you as having a foreign mentality because you are a bit more aware, more enlightened, and you can make informed decisions for yourself, which is something that the previous generation might not have had that golden platform to do. So once you are married to a man, it's like that's a life box that you must stay within, despite all odds, for better, for worse. And in those instances, the for worse instances were high.
Really
and
was.
because they endured it, they are telling you, you need to be patient, you need to be... And I think to react to that, I would invite our ladies, like men, to try to open up, to try to read more, to try to follow programs like this, get more enlightened, speak to ladies like yourselves who are in touch with these realities on the ground, and get more awareness on the situation, the reality of the situation, and how they can come out of it. We shouldn't stay in that archaic mentality, particularly if that mentality is not progressive.
It is.
I promise you, you've heard these stories, and it comes in the form of loving advice. My daughter, you need to be patient. I was beaten every day for 20 years, but today I'm fine with my husband.
And you know what society generally does is, they ask you, the single girl, you go marry now, which day? When are you getting married? So they make you feel something is wrong with you not being married.
Promise,
and
we
if
even
you
have
leave your
cases
husband's
where
house,
someone has been beaten, rushes home middle of the night with wounds, and the mother and say, you have to go back.
Yes.
That is how you solve the problems. And these are the stories that are handed over. And how do you respond to these stories when they tell you these things? How do you process? What do you take from them? And what do you throw away?
Taking some and throwing some is like, it's even difficult to throw some away, because when you look at someone who is going through a situation, for example, let me take at the victim at the moment. Let's leave those old women in their own stories first. Let's look at the victim at the moment, like, but where will I go to? I've already lived all my life with him. I already have my children with him. And they ask now, what about your own life? What happens to you and your own life? Those are his children. Tomorrow he will be hitting his chest on me. These are my children. What are you doing for your own self? What do you think you're going to lie on your deathbed, and I don't know if the people talk, lie on your deathbed and say, okay, I came to earth, this is what I did. How are you going to judge yourself before every other person judging you? What do you tell yourself at night when you are in bed? Has my day been fulfilled? Am I happy?
Right.
Because you are a happiness train. As an individual, you're a happiness train. You can only get people join the happiness train if you are happy.
Okay.
A train which is not on motion, nobody will want to enter because we don't know if you're going to take off or not. Now, show people that you are happy and let other people join in your happiness. That's why people would tend to think that it is marriage that's going to make you happy. Are missing out the point. And that's what society is making women to believe, that once you are not married or you are packing out of your husband's house, you will not be happy. Or you'll be a single woman, you'll not be happy. Why will you think that you'll not be successful if you live an abusive relationship that does not even permit you to work? And most of these men who are abusive will not want you to work, so that you have all the time in the house and they can beat you all the time.
Just to specify here that within the context of this program, when we talk about abusive relationships, it's not only marriage relationships, because we have boyfriends and girlfriends that have been battered. We have fathers violating their daughters and uncles. So marriage is not the only context within which this happens. And we are looking at seeking help. Jim has proposed that you can talk to
legal institutions.
To legal institutions, and
the media has power.
Okay.
We want women and victims to use the media. Talking about the media is more of the private media, because these are human interest stories, and you'll be surprised at how much help you can get once you speak on the media. There are air spaces, there are programs, there are health programs,
what would you want
society
them
programs.
to say on these programs?
Even if you don't want your name,
how can the radio help her?
For example, well, my radio station, we had a program like that, but I don't know what happened. We silenced it a little bit, but women came up, even men who were in abusive relationships, they came up, and it's about involving counselors, psychologists, clinical psychologists, sociologists, and discussing, because just like he said, it does not mean that if you go and report, your marriage will come to an end. It could just be a way of you opening the doors to happiness to come into your relationship. So once you speak up and speak out, you might find someone who will help you. We have something in the Catholic Church, in my church, which is called Marriage Encounter.
Okay.
It helps.
Yeah, Jim mentioned church spaces.
Yeah, it helps couples to find love and happiness in marriages that were almost falling apart. And I bet you we have some couples that I'll not call their names here in my church whose marriages have transformed, and we are seeing the difference. Like the man will drive in his car alone and come to church, and then the wife will come on foot to church with the children. But now we practically see them coming to church together, sitting on the same chair together, and being so happy thanks to this marriage encounter. It means that once you speak, it's not all about you getting a divorce. It's about you finding happiness. Yes.
You asked a very important question about what the media can do, and I know some TV stations, some radio stations, they run these late night programs that are very.
I used to host one.
Oh my God! And you have a good voice for that.
I used to host
and
one.
People will anonymously describe their stories and leave the audience to respond. I think the media really has a very
we still have that program on our radio, like from 12:30 to 2 o'clock every day, Monday to Friday. You call
even
in,
anonymously share their problem.
It is generally anonymously, or just give
responses.
a name. It's just one name. You just give like maybe a Solange or a you just give one name, and then there's always a clinical psychologist, a psychologist who is always there, and then there's a sociologist, and then we have a coach, a life coach. So these three people are always on the program because as per the thematic of the day, they help. And many women have called back to say thank you. That it was actually their problem that they had to hide behind an anonymous name.
To crowdsource counseling.
Yes.
If we can put it that way. So we need to normalize speaking about these things. And Jim, we have very few men coming in to talk about these kind of topics. When they come, it could be like a doctor or, like very high expert form. What do you as a civil society organizer do within the spaces to engage men? And I know you've done quite some things around that. I've read your engagements on these topics. In Ghana and in Cameroon, what is the experience like? Are men in Ghana more engaged what is it? How is it happening there? Looking at this topic and comparing to what's happening in Cameroon, and other lessons we can learn from these different communities.
You know, Ghana is a fairly advanced society in these things because their civil society is very vibrant, and well. They have a very vibrant media as well, and the civil society actors or activists are very, very engaged. And the interesting thing is, by activists here is both men and women. However, they have certain similar characteristics like us, where there are those pressures or tags tags that stigma that they place on victims. But the good thing is that you know what civil society is doing, and I think a couple of civil society organizations in Cameroon, they create those spaces for both boys and girls. Let's begin from there, to educate them, to enlighten them about the violations that possibly exist and that they could be exposed to, and how they could prevent or avoid them. Then men and women as well coming, you know, together in these spaces, you know, to speak out on these issues and so on. And the church in Ghana plays a very key role. The church is very, very active, and so has these marriage counseling seminars almost every month by different pastors, different counselors, different coaches that expose citizens to opportunities or platforms that they can be more aware of on these issues and how to report them or assess them.
What I'm getting from your experience in Ghana is engagement of men, women, boys, and girls. Yeah. And those are lessons I think we can learn here in Cameroon. We'll take a break to have other members of our audience have their say on this topic. And when we come back, we'll get the conclusions from Promise and from Jay.
Talking about women in abusive relationships, most of the time the reason why they stay is because, number one, they think of their children, they think of their reputation, they think of the fact that probably their parents will tell them that they have failed in their marriage, they should go back and fix their home. So I would like to advise every woman that is in an abusive relationship that it is not worth the trouble. You know, you need to speak out. Don't keep silent. You need to speak out. The Bible says that a man shall leave his house, his father and mother, and cleave to his wife, and the two will become one. So any man that is abusing his wife is a foolish person. Only a fool would do that. You know, beating your own self, abusing yourself is only foolishness. I will tell the lady, you know, seek help, go for counseling, report to a mentor, to one of his mentors. You know, anyone that is superior that he listens to, report to the person. And if it continues, tell your parents, you know, both parents. And if it continues, my dear sister, step out of the house. Wisdom is profitable to direct. Step out of the house while you are praying for your home and for your husband. It is better for you to be alive and take care of your home and your children than to die for another woman to take care of the home. You know, so I'll just advise the woman, you know, you just stay away and pray, seek counsel, and until that is done, my dear sister, don't go back to the house. Save your life. Save your life. Don't let your parents lose you. Don't let your children lose you. In the pretext of you want to hide, you know, you don't want to expose your home. It's not worth it. Thank you.
Hello viewers, hello Spotlight, hello Kami, and thank you for having me come on your show. You asked the question, why women stay in abusive relationships? Why is it hard for them to get out of that abusive cycle? I will start with some numbers. 1 in every 3 women has experienced GBV, meaning you, me, or the women watching this, we have either been victims or know someone who's been a victim of domestic abuse. And globally, over 38% of women killed were murdered by their domestic partners, either by their husbands or boyfriends. That is pretty high, and that is dangerous. And the reasons I think women stay with abusive partners is, first, societal expectations. As a young girl, you're told that your value is attached to your social status, meaning if you are single, you're not worth anything, means something is wrong with you, right? Or if you have you're divorced, something is wrong with you. You are the problem, right? So that pushes women to stick around, you know. And then secondly, finances. Women, most women who stick with abusive partners, although not in all cases, are dependent, financially very much dependent on their partners. So it's hard to get out there and start on their own. And thirdly, children. A woman who has kids would find it very hard to leave, and which comes back to the second point I mentioned, finances, because if she's equipped with finances, she can easily move out and take care of her children, you know. And we also talk about women, we shame women who are divorced, so it makes it even harder for her to even leave, because you are told that something is wrong with you, you are the reason why this didn't work out. That's what society says, you're blamed, so it makes it harder for a woman to leave. And also, our societal construct, for example, doesn't have places or avenues that can support women who are going through abuse. So they don't have anywhere to run to. So maybe we can start by providing places, avenues, support systems for women, so that they know they can, you know, be okay. Another reason why I think women stay in abusive relationships is that, you know, they think or believe that the person is going to change, that he's going to become someone else. You're told to pray about it. A woman will easily run to her pastor rather than her, you know, her brother or sister, because she believes that, you know, he is better equipped to help her. And what women are told is to go pray about it. We live in a Christian society, so many women are Christians and they believe, you know, in their pastors. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, instead of trying to tackle the problem, we tell women to pray about it. And sadly, prayers don't usually work with an abusive person. And then lastly, I'd like to say that as women, our self-worth, when you also think lowly of yourself, your self-esteem is low, you tend to stick with somebody who is abusive, because you think that, you know, he adds some value and some worth to who you are. So we also need to raise women to look at themselves, be proud of themselves, and know that they deserve better. And lastly, we have this saying that goes around in our cliques, in our circles, that all men are the same. Okay, usually it is said regards to cheating, but it kind of, it kind of makes someone to be reluctant when you feel that what if the next person it's still gonna be abusive, when society tells you the grass is not always greener on the other side. You tend to stay with that person. So women are constantly being told not to leave, because, you know, it's not good to be single, which comes to the first reason I mentioned, or is it the second, that society, the pressure put on women to be married. It's, for me, one of the biggest reasons why women would stick around with abusive partners. And also what women should do, a solution would be to empower women to continually educate more girls and to teach them values, and to teach them that it is okay if you're single. It's okay, you know, if you're not married, if you're divorced. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Your happiness is not necessarily tied.
Welcome back. We have had a full 1 hour of conversations around intimate partner violence in Cameroon. And promise, as we leave, there are women who are stuck in the cycles of abuse who've been listening to us. And what are your parting words for these sisters?
First things first, love yourself. If you love yourself, you want to pamper yourself, and you don't want anyone hurting you. So begin by loving yourself for who you really are. That is, first of all, to know who you really are. Love yourself for who you are, and then love your kids if you have kids already in a relationship, and please speak up and speak out. The speaking up and speaking out does not necessarily mean that you're going to put an end to your relationship. It could just be a door opens to happiness. So please speak up, speak out, and consider loving yourself and pampering yourself more.
Thank you very much, Promise. And Jim?
I will insist on speaking out and look at different platforms in society. It could be legal, it could be the police, it could be in your church, it could be your model. You know, it could even be among your peer group. So in your Njangi, there is somebody you look up to very, very much. It could be, you know, in society, there is a couple that you admire the way, that you admire the way they are going about their things. Share, speak out, speak out. I think what is making these stories or these sad situations to flourish in our society is because victims are silent about it. Speak out, speak out, speak out. And if you don't know how and whom to reach out to, Sister Speak is there, you know, so why not? You know, through your Facebook handle, they can send you a personal message, and you can advise on which appropriate institution to reach out to, depending on where they are in our country or in the society. So I think speaking up is really key, and the more we speak up, the more this canker in society will be addressed, and sooner as well.
Thank you very much, Jim. Silence is a killer, and there are many women who are dying in silence. We hope you've been inspired to speak out, to speak up, to seek help, and I hope that we'll continue to speak about this topic even when this continues. Please feel free to leave your comments in our chat boxes. And like Jim said, you can send us a message at Sister Speak. If there's a woman watching us today and you are really caught up in the cycle of abuse, feel free to send us a message, and we will connect you with appropriate counselors and services that could help you. Thanks for being with us today on Spotlight. Goodbye.